I don't want you to go. I don't want you to go. Good morning, Soul Center. Was that friggin' amazing or what? I want to piggyback off of last week. Rena, you own the stage. You own it. You rock it. Thank you so much to Brian, to David, to Jesse, to Adrian, to Vaughn, to Christy, and I'm missing Gabe. Yes, Gabe. Thank you so. You guys, did they look good or what? Top notch, amazing. Good morning, Soul Center. Welcome to our Sunday service at Campus Jacks. Thank you, Campus Jacks, for having us here. We are beyond grateful. It's super cool. I was like, Jessica's so excited about the stage and everything. I was like, oh my God, they it just feels so good to see them up here. Anyway, I'm gonna let that go. We got a service to get to. So grateful to be here. Soul Center, we are part of the Agape Association of Communities. You've heard me say that quite a number of times. And as you heard in the reading, they give you a little bit of a snippet of what New Thought is. New Thought, ageless wisdom, because it's not new, it's fresh though, it's fresh and alive, because God is fresh and alive. God is not stale or stagnant or rote. And prayer is fresh and alive. And the golden thread that unites all spiritual teachings, all religious at the mystical sect of their beingness, because every religion has a mystical place where we meet in a pure, holy, potent field, the prayer field. The prayer field is where we meet in the mystical and we allow ourselves to be in the world but not of the world. We allow ourselves to really feel in our bones what it means to know that we're born in the image and likeness of God. It's where we know that, like the cliche of, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And it's like, that's really cute and nice to say. But when you feel it in your bones that you are an eternal being of infinite, benevolent potential and light, this is the truth of who we are. These are the teachings that we espouse and know. We also include in that we have a responsibility, a personal responsibility, because every single person is on the trajectory. There is a destiny, and the one destiny that we all share is enlightenment. We are all to be as all of the masters have proclaimed. We all have heard it 1,000 times or more when Jesus said, and we know that Jesus, the Christ, that was his title, not his last name, Jesus the Christ, said, "These and greater things you shall do," because there is such a vast, infinite realm of wisdom and possibility. And when we take ourselves and we commune in that space, when we go into meditation, when we go into prayer, and we touch the hem of the garment, that's when we transport ourselves into other dimension, otherworldly. We move from the third dimension into fifth dimensional consciousness, where we begin to become aware from where the divine mind and our surface mind start to merge, and you can start to feel the neural net in your brain starting to go as it starts to rewire and expand. They say we use about 10% of our consciousness, or of our brain, and that's because we're using about 10% of our consciousness. And as that expands, so does the neuroplasticity in our brain. And so we've got so much room to grow in this department. And so that's what our community is steeped in. And when we're traveling in this journey of the human experience, we come across challenges from time to time. No matter what, whether you come across a challenge or whether you come across something amazing, the answer is still the same. To be in communion and awe of the holy presence of synchronicity and serendipity and joy and the power and the presence of God, it's the same. So I'm going to invite you, we have some housekeeping to take care of. One of our congregants who is such an angel, just a brilliant angel, and she's given me permission to speak a word for her today. But our beloved Holly is going through a health challenge. And what do? We come to first cause, because there are no challenges in God, but how do we start to bring in the prayer field, embody it, and know the truth for someone. So as we were mentioning earlier, as Patricia mentioned, we have a prayer, where people come in, they call in or they put prayer requests in, and we're assembling our team as our ecclesiastical branch of Soul Center is starting to get our foundation and solid, where we have our prayer chaplains coming up next year. We ought to have our first round of prayer chaplains. But in the meantime, we get a lot of prayer requests. And you can always call the Agape prayer line, you can call the Unity prayer line, but you're family. And so she's going through a little bit of a health challenge, and I want to invite you to join me as we use prayer as it's intended to be used. We not only hold Holly in radiant wellness, and that is the truth of who she is. There's a part of Holly, there's a part of each one of us that has never been hurt or harmed in any way, and there's a part where every organ in her beingness is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And so we move into that field, we bring ourselves into that field, and then this is the part that I really want to invite you to participate in, is that we're not like trying to push it on to her. We want to also invite her to know that, to believe that. And so we do that in our prayer. We invite the person. When we hold it, there's an invitation that goes out for them to hold it. And so we want to create a potent field that sees and knows that right where Holly is, God is, good is, and the very benevolent potential that she's seeking, that's already coded and loaded within her, is right there. Now we have, I know at least of one other congregant who's going through a health challenge, and I want to hold him in that space. And at this particular point, your soul knows who that is. And so we're going to hold anybody who's going through a health challenge, no matter if it's an allergy or something greater. And by greater, I mean pushing more on the veil of our being on the planet. So we want to hold her, we want to hold them in this space. So we're just going to take a moment, we're just going to turn within, we're going to turn within to that field. And this is where two or more have gathered. And we're going to bring Holly and anyone else that is in your heart to receive radiant wellness coursing and pulsing. And we're sending an invitation to them to invite them to receive this. We open into that field and we know that the power and the presence of God is right where they are. And that the magnificence of that power is always seeking to rise up and reveal itself, and everything necessary for that to happen is already right where they are. So we hold them in our hearts in a place of confidence. We hold them in our hearts in a place of clarity, and we hold them in a place where we believe this to be true. For we know that which we believe we will perceive. And so we are seeking and finding radiant wellness, radiant goodness for Holly and anyone else that we are holding in our hearts for this transformational elixir. We turn to the beginning, where we find the light and the power and the presence of God. We bless it upon them and we invite them to receive it. And it's from a place of gratitude and thanksgiving, knowing that the very nature of life is wellness, it is goodness. And so we simply agree to hold this, to continue to hold it, to be unmoved by the world of effects, that we stand rooted and grounded in knowing right where they are, God is, wellness is, goodness is, joy is, and that any healing that takes place through joy, through love, through ease, and through grace. For this is the very nature of God. This is the very nature of us, and this is what we choose to allow be. We claim it so, saying, so be it, and so it is. Amen. And so we keep anybody who's on our prayer list in our prayers all the time. So we've got people praying for you. So just know that you can do that. And you can also put in prayers for things that you want to celebrate. All we want to bring into that. So good morning and welcome. I just wanted to, as we start September off, the topic for today is your in-vironment. We want to repurpose, we don't want to reuse, as opposed to the environment. In the environment, we want to reuse, recycle, repurpose. But when it comes to our environment, our inner feelings and emotions, as we were talking about in that prayer, we don't want to reuse. As a matter of fact, all we want to do is we want to transmute and repurpose. Our purpose is what we are seeking to express into this world. We are seeking to align with this. There are natural laws that govern the universe. We've all heard about the law of attraction. By now you are all aware about me talking about the law of emergence, which is just one of the key foundational laws in spiritual growth. As you move from duality, because the law of attraction is a very dualistic law, and you rise in vibration into the law of emergence. The law of emergence, remembering that's the call of your soul, what it's seeking to express, and when we connect to that, we start to draw to us what is the fulfillment for that in benevolent and beautiful ways, because that's the only way the universe operates. But as one of my favorites, Greg Braden, he's one of those great people that traverses and crosses over between science and spirituality. And science, what is so wonderful today about science is that we have this equipment that can see, we've got infrared and we've got night vision and we've got X-ray and MRI and we've got all these things that can see beyond what the human eyes at the lower vibrations, by the way, because as these eyes merge with this eye, then your inner MRI and your inner X-ray and your inner infrared begins to awaken, and you will be able to see things beyond the 3D world and move into the fifth dimensional realms of being able to see what is seemingly not there. But we have equipment at this particular time that can see these things. And then there are certain laws and natural phenomena and cycles that are flowing through the world at this moment, since the dawn of creation. And there are cycles, and so some of you might be aware of the fractals. Fractals are kind of some of the patterns and building blocks of a creation. A fractal is simply something, it's a pattern that replicates itself like a snowflake, and inherent in the snowflake are multiple versions of the same exact snowflake, and every time it replicates, it just keeps having more of the same thing in the same pattern. And there are fractal cycles, and in his book, Fractal Time, he talks about these cycles. And so in the human experience, as you've heard me say from time to time, it's very good to read your owner's manual on how to be a spiritual being in a human body, because there's so many things that we've forgotten. And there are these fractal cycles that go, and they naturally occur throughout all of life. A lot of you have seen in sacred geometry, etc., how these patterns, and they carry codes. There's codes that allow things to come into manifestation. But in the fractal time, there's one of these cycles, and it basically goes like a spiral, a cylindrical spiral that spirals out, and there's like waves. There's a wave that goes through, and those natural cycles, one of them is the natural circadian rhythms of your body. Your body cycles on a 24-hour period. All these things that go through with the beating of your heart and the breathing of your lungs and the circulation of your veins and the blood and everything like that. Everything's moving through, and there's these natural circadian rhythms that just flow all on their own. It is miraculous that we can just breathe and we don't have to sit there and go, okay, I need to inhale my lungs and exhale my lungs. I mean, wouldn't that just be tedious? You'd spend your whole day just breathing. And we can just do that automatically. That in and of itself is miraculous. It is miraculous that our hearts just beat. They beat. So we were given a perfect blueprint of everything, of every organ, of every tissue, of every cell, of every molecule of our being. The divine is so magnificent that life was so elegantly outlaid for us. And then there's what we do, what we overlay onto those things. So in terms of our genes and our cells, there's certain choices, habits, ideas, and beliefs that we start to adopt into our life when we get down, as we were talking about last week, staying above the fray of group consciousness. Well, there's certain things that we choose to overlay onto our cells, onto our genes, onto our cellular memory, and then they start to move into the cyclical rhythm. And so one of those things that ends up happening is there's a trauma. Greg refers to those as a seed event. A seed event, so you've got this cyclical fractal pattern that's spiraling through time, that's carrying this high vibrational frequency in the manifest world, and then something gets inserted into it, and then all of a sudden now it's on this flow of this spiral cylindrical wave of energy that's going out. And so some of you have experienced that with chronic conditions in our lives. There's a seed event where sometimes that seed event started before you got here, because you brought it with you from a past life. But when you get here, all of a sudden and so what it does is it will ebb and flow. It'll rise up as it spirals up to the top. Ooh, here it goes. I'm having this issue with my partner, my spouse, my friend, whoever it is, and it's like, and and then the eyes bulge, and you want to blame, and you want to shame, and you want to do all that crazy stuff. And then all of a sudden, the dust starts to settle, and then you might move into one of these. This is one of those things. You want to caveat emptor. You want to buyer beware on this one. Let's just agree to disagree. Okay, well, just so you know, let's just agree to disagree has nothing healing in it whatsoever. It just means I'm going to stay over here in opposed to you, while you stay over here as opposed to me. So maybe we'll just update it. Let's agree to take a step back and find a place where we can both agree in the divine state of awareness, because there is a win-win. And so I want to start to transmute the idea that we're going to agree to disagree. That's just a stepping stone. That's basically just saying, hey, you're wrong, I'm right, and you're wrong, and I'm right, and let's just not argue anymore. And that's one of those things when you've got the spiral going that you don't want to do, because then you know what's going to happen. So as it goes over the hump of the spiral, that fractal time, and then it comes, and it's like, oh, okay, everything's fine and good. And then, whoa, here it comes again, back up to the top. And then what do you know? You're back into let's just agree to disagree. And it's like, no, we want to get out of the cycle. So we want to cleanse the wave of that energy as it's cycling through our lives. And most of us have launched quite a few of those. We've taken and we have these natural cycles that we put information into through choice and through free will. And so when we turn within and we find out, well, what have I put in there? What have I put in those natural cycles of perpetual fulfillment? Because we do know that the law of attraction, one of the key laws in the physical world, what goes around comes around. And so you're just kind of starting to see the machinations behind all of this and how it all works. And it's really great to have an understanding. But in our community, we go more than just understanding. I've heard a lot of people, one of these things where, I've taken quite a few classes over the years. And sometimes, every once in a while, you run into somebody who's like, oh, yeah, I know that. And then they just want to move along. And it's like, okay, well, do you know it? Are you letting it down into your bones? Has it changed you? Because we want to allow what you know to change you at your core. Because we're all seeking that through revelation and through inspiration. We're all seeking that, and that's what our spiritual practice is. And our spiritual practice isn't something arduous, it's not something boring, it's not something where all I do every day is no, we're not going to do the monk on the mount routine. There's a lot of people who want to, there's some people who just go, they go one way over here, where they're just kind of like avoid the whole world. I don't want to see my issues. I don't want to know my issues. Just don't see, don't speak, don't hear. And we don't want to participate. And then there's other people who are so adverse to it, they just want to be the monk on the mount. I just want to go live somewhere in nature and where nobody bothers me. Well, that doesn't do anything either. That just allows you to sit with all my issues as those rhythms, and they'll find you, because they're going to cycle around, and the next thing you know, out in the wilderness, some hiker's going to come along and irritate you. And so we don't want that. We want to transcend that. We want to rise above that. And so we want to take a look. We want to look at what are the patterns or situations that are going on in your life, for good or for bad. For good or for bad. But if there's any pattern or situation in your life, we just want to look at it and see, is there anything that repeats itself? Is there a conversation, as opposed to an argument, that you have with someone in your life that repeats itself? If you ever find yourself going, you always blah, 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 well, you're going to find that's a precursor to something that repeats itself. We want to find out in that, what is the belief about that? What have I adopted? What belief have I adopted about this pattern? And now we're starting to move in. Now we're starting to flex our spiritual muscle when we start to see what it is. And then what would you like to do to release or expand it? Because sometimes you might have a belief that's really good. You might have a prosperity belief that's pretty good. You might have a prosperity belief that keeps you locked in at 150 grand a year. That could still be a limiting belief. You have the potential. God doesn't know the difference between $1 and $1 million. So you have the potential. So whether it's good, you're making a nice living that keeps you comfortable enough to not pursue your spiritual practice. Caveat emptor again about that one, because we don't want to be comfortable enough to not pursue our spiritual practice. In astrology, when I look at someone's chart, there's things we call trines. Trines are where planets line up and they create real flow. Like if I looked at Rena's chart, I'd probably see like a lot of flow and creative expression and in singing. I would just probably see trine all over the place. And then there are what we call squares. Squares are where we have challenges and obstacles. And when we have challenges and obstacles, always within the challenge or the obstacle is a place where we are to grow. We are to grow. And one of the quotes that Greg Braden says is that the great challenges in life appear when, and only when, we have everything we need to survive and heal from the experience. So these things that show up in our lives, we have everything we need to transcend it right where we are, and that's where we call on to the prayer field. That's when we move into transmutation. That's when we move into evocation. What are you evoking? And then probably one of the most important pieces of this puzzle is that we have to be available. We have to allow it in. So as we're reviewing our life, as we're looking in and we're seeing what are the patterns, I'm going to charge you this week to look at any pattern, no matter how big or small. And as a matter of fact, the question will be, what pattern in my life is seeking divine expansion to set me free? That's where we'll start. And then we want to see, what belief have I attached to this? Because remember, beliefs only exist in duality and in time and space. You don't have beliefs when you're just in your soul energy. Because beliefs are tied to time and space. They actually launch things into those spirals, into those fractal time rhythms, cycles that go out. And we want to make sure, what are we launching in there? And then we would say, okay, based on this, what is the belief I would like to have? What do I want to believe? Remembering that we're using this in a way to get to a place where we'll end up eventually being so clean and so clear that we don't even have beliefs. We're just like, you see sometimes the Dalai Lama, he touches that veil and people will bring to him certain things and he just kind of smiles. Yeah, it's all good. And he'll give you room to kind of figure it out. And it's like, yeah, because he's not tied. Now, I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's pretty close to the veil of not being constrained by time or space or belief. And so since we're all headed there anyway, and since bliss is the byproduct of that, why not? I'm always one of those people that's like, oh, if this is what is magnificent and great and beautiful, then why not head there now? Why wait? A lot of people say, well, no, I want to take this little side road over here down pain and misery and suffering, and I'm going to come down here and do blame and shame, and I'm going to play with that for a little while. And it's like, okay, I'll see you over here at bliss when you're ready, and I'm going to move over here. And so the whole idea, and levity, pray and play, as you've heard me say before, is on the same vibrational frequency, so we do want it to be fun. We do want it to be fun. And any true, deep spiritual practice is steeped in joy. There's a joyful way to accomplish anything. There's a joyful way to go through somebody who's transitioning. For both the people on this side of the veil and the person who's transitioning to the other side. There's a joyful way to go through a health challenge. There's a joyful way to go through a prosperity challenge. There is a joyful way, and we want to get into that field. And so as we move into our meditation and into our prayer, we allow ourselves to move into this And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually just take a moment, and I'm going to invite you to join me as we turn within, and we're just going to do a little bit of a process. Like, why wait? You know, I used to be of the old school thought of, why do today when what you could do tomorrow? And now I'm like, why not do today what you don't want to wait till tomorrow to do? So we're going to just go ahead and dive right into that. And so I'm just going to invite you to close your eyes as we turn within. And I'll just give you a couple of the ground rules. No editing, no trying, no efforting, just observing, just observe. And I'm just going to ask you, the intention of this process is to heal, up-level, or expand and enhance, or transform or transmute something in your life. So whether it's an enhancement of something wonderful, or whether it's a transmutation of something less wonderful that is tied to lack or limitation. Either way, they're tied to lack or limitation. So the intention is to release lack and limitation, so we're going to turn within. And I'm just going to invite you to bring your awareness to your heart, in the middle of your chest, and allow your heart to open and to blossom. And then I'm going to invite you to bring your awareness to your soul star. You've heard me in meditation refer to your soul star. It's one of my favorite chakras. Your soul star is about 1 meter, maybe a little bit more above your crown. It's the part of our anatomy that lives outside of time and space. It's the part of our anatomy that contains the energy of the soul, our purpose, our passion, our missions. So I'm just going to invite you to bring your awareness to that higher dimension of your own consciousness, where the divine merges with you, through you, in and matriculates into time and space. So just bring your awareness to your soul star. And then begin to notice that there is an energy that flows between your soul star and your heart. There's an energy that flows between every fiber of your beingness, but right now we're just zeroing in on the energy that flows between your soul star and your heart. And we're just going to ask the question, what pattern or situation in my life is seeking to be expanded, enhanced, transmuted, or healed in benevolent and beautiful ways without judging it or analyzing it? Let your soul reveal to you a pattern of limitation. And as we bring that into our awareness, I'm going to ask, what is the belief associated or tied to this? What is the limiting or erroneous belief associated or tied to this? If nothing comes up, that's all right. Just allow yourself to bathe in this energy. And then we're going to set the intention that we are going to open, expand, enhance, and transmute this belief and align it with the very truth of God, of light, of love, of infinite benevolent potential and possibility. We're going to align it and allow our belief system to be recalibrated and reconfigured and brought into truth consciousness. And I'm going to ask, what belief do you now choose to embody? What affirmative, benevolent, glorious, infinite, divine, holy belief do you choose to embody in your beingness for its fulfillment that is better than you could ever imagine? And as you hold that in your awareness, knowing that even if I'm continuing to speak and more of this comes through to you, just let it be. And we're going to bring that energy, and I'm going to invite you to imagine it going down from your soul star, through your heart, down through your root at the base of your spine, down beneath the bottoms of our chairs. And I invite you to bring your awareness down to your earth star, your 10th chakra, at the bottom outer edge of your auric field, an emerald green and white starburst of heavenly light where we anchor heaven on earth. This is the flow, the rhythm, the flow of energy as it flows from your soul star, from the divine through your soul star, through your heart, down to your earth star, and we ground. We ground heaven on earth. We ground our new belief. We allow for the recalibration. We allow for the neural net to be rewired, that we may embody. This is what we are choosing to see. So just as we hold Holly in this field of radiant wellness, as we hold it believing, we are seeking and finding radiant wellness, and that every situation and circumstance is lavishing her in benevolent and beautiful ways, we know that same thing for ourselves. We know it for ourselves, and we know it for anybody else that we are holding in prayer. And I'm truly grateful to take a moment as you just let go and let God, as we open our hearts, our bodies, our minds, our souls, even more, to be purified and cleansed in this divine nectar. We allow that as we invite, as we evoke, as we allow the Holy Spirit of God, of our soul, to flow through us, joining us ever more potently, ever more tangibly in the experience of being in the world but not of the world, in the Christ consciousness of our own beingness, as we embody the truth that we have said yes to these and greater things I shall do today, not tomorrow, today, right now. We bring the infinite eternal into time and space. We ground it. We ground it into the material world, our 10th chakra, our earth star. We ground it down there, see it rooting into Mother Earth, the physical dimension. We ground heaven on earth to, through, and as our beingness, and we give thanks. We give thanks knowing that it is God's good pleasure to bring forward the kingdom of heaven to, through, and as our beingness. We claim it so. We move into a field of divine right receivership, that we will seek and find, see and believe, know and embody this. We claim it, we own it, and we allow it to be right now, saying, so be it.
So be it.
And so I let it be. Amen. 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 Aho, Ashe, Shalom, Hotep, and Hallelujah. Yes. That's how to do it. It's super easy. So I invite you to, tune in on the YouTube, do whatever it takes to just incorporate these things. It wasn't hard, it's fun, okay? So we're going to do that. We're going to let it be fun, and we're going to have the ushers come forward as we prepare for our conscious time of tithing. Again, moving into the law of circulation allowing. This isn't God's money. This isn't your money. Sorry, this is God's money. It's not your finite supply. I want you to hold that whatever you're tithing, that this is something that you are circulating. The law of circulation, the law of tithing says it must return to us minimally tenfold, but we get to choose what we believe, so I say minimally 100-fold, and it's from a sincere place. This isn't about playing with the law of attraction. This is about moving into a devotional state. So as we hold that, we infuse our offering. We infuse it, knowing that, especially if you're watching online, could you please go to soulcenteroc.com and hit the donate button, or you can also text to donate. And I want to just give thanks to the people who've been hitting the donate button, and for the people who have been texting. We're just truly grateful. We really thank you. It is helping us to put together our building fund and all of everything we need for all of our overhead and all the blessings and our prayer ministries and everything that we're doing. I invite you to text to 669-342-2157 anytime, 24 hours a day. We give thanks for the ushers, we give thanks for your tithe, and we give thanks knowing it returns to you multiplied, and we allow it to be. Thank you, ushers.